Hello, and welcome to Empowered the Podcast. My name is Linda, and I am your host. I am an empowerment coach, a spirit junkie, a realtor, a proud mom, and a dog mom. I'm also an animal advocate, a child advocate, and someone that overcame a lot of challenges and trauma in my life. This podcast is packed with powerful content, inspiring conversations with amazing guests who will help you heal, grow, and evolve into a better version of you so you can attract in your best and most empowered life. I don't know about you, but I'm not here for mediocrity. I'm here for an abundant, blessed life. Life does not have to be so hard. That is an old program. We can do less and attract more, and I know this to be true. I love bringing you this powerful information. I hope you enjoy, learn, and grow. Have a beautiful day. Hello, and welcome to Empowered the Podcast. I'm your host, Linda Brand, and today I have Dr. Nekeshia Hammond, a respected psychologist, executive coach, and founder of Hammond Psychology and Associates. She is known for her expertise in mental health, burnout prevention, and leadership development. And she's also an international speaker, best-selling author, and she has had her insights featured on NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox and Essence Magazine, as well as platforms like Corporate Counsel Women of Color and TEDx, focusing on mental wellness and leadership balance. And I love bringing you these powerful conversations and amazing guests who will help us with the mental health thing, because, it's such a big thing. I'm coaching and, it's mindset's everything. And her newest book is Mindset Training, Conquer Your Mind and the Rest Will Follow. And it's available for pre-order. And I'm super excited to talk to her today about the mindset training and all that she's doing in the world. So welcome to the show, Dr. Hammond. Thank you for being here. It's lovely
Thank
to meet you again, because we had an interview last week and it didn't get recorded. So this will be even better. Yeah, absolutely. Because now we know each other a little bit. And so tell the audience a little bit about your beginning, wherever you want to start, just about you and how it all began, what you're doing.
Yeah, I grew up in Orlando, home of Disney World. And I grew up in a single parent home. It was just at that time, my mom, my brother, myself, growing up, and really knew, I think from a young age, I wanted to help people. At that time, I really wanted to help kids. Moved into the field of psychology. And 15 years ago, I started a mental health private practice, where I'm still at part of the time. And the other part of the time, I spend time in the community, educating a lot of different organizations and corporations about burnout prevention, stress management strategies. Because what I've seen, especially over the last couple of years after COVID, global pandemic came about, it was really taxing on all of us. A lot of people got overwhelmed, stressed out, burnt out, understandably, with all that it brought. So a lot more of my calls for speaking was about, like, how do we deal with this? How do we cope with this? And even still today, like, how do we make sure that we're taking care of ourselves? So that's what I do currently. Spending my time doing that. And then on the personal side, I'm a wife, I'm a mom. So juggling all things just like everyone else, but I love being in the mental wellness space. I've been here for a long time, and I love it here, and I'm grateful to just be in a place where I can help others learn how to thrive.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you knew at a young age your passion and your purpose, and that's so huge, because there's so many of us that didn't have that, knowing right away, or they did, but they ended up going a different route because somebody said, oh, you don't make money in that, or whatever they told the story. And then they followed what mom said or dad said or whatever. But it's great that you were able to follow your passion and that. So what shifted you into from you were in this practice? Like, how did you start writing books and becoming a speaker? Just curious.
Yeah. So that actually happened about 10 years ago. So at the beginning of my practice 15 years ago, it's funny because when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm going to, do therapy and do some evaluations and then just do this for the rest of my life. But I learned a couple years in very quickly that the needs for mental health and wellness were so vast, like just so much larger than what I could personally do to help in my office. Not that those needs weren't important, they're extremely important, but also there was this huge world out there, if you will, who needed a lot of help. So I began to consult more with the media. I am a huge advocate of public education. I think there's a lot of things that we don't know that we don't know, but if we knew them, they would really change our lives in a positive way. So I'm a huge advocate. That's what brought me into speaking, actually speaking to different communities, well, all over the world at this point, and making sure that people are educated, making sure that people understand how to take care of themselves. And the same thing with even now with the corporations and different organizations. Like, I really was craving an opportunity to share this information with as many people as possible, which brought me more out of my office and also into the community, which I love. Just really trying to spread a message of hope, inspiration, and also like, here's the practical things that you can actually do to work on changing your life.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm curious on that public education thing, just because so many people are talking about homeschooling their kids, and
Yeah.
just would love to hear your opinion on that. And I would also love to know if you had any personal challenges being, in your life coming from a single mom, and just, just your own personal challenges that maybe you experienced and overcame becoming
Yeah.
who you are today.
Yeah. Yeah. So two questions. So one, homeschooling. So I have seen, you know, it's so interesting because after COVID-19, after 2020 and all that happened, the world of education changed so drastically. A lot more people were heading into virtual and homeschool and that sort of thing. And I've really seen that it depends. Does it work or not? It really depends on the family. It depends on the curriculum. It depends on what's being put in place. But one of the major things that does help children in general when it comes to education is the amount of support that they have, whether they're in a traditional school or at home. Like, that support is so critically needed, not just academic support, but like mental health. Are they okay? Checking in with them, their wellness, their well-being, like all of that matters.
Yeah.
Physically, how are they doing? Right? All that matters to help them thrive, which is what I hope that, we want our kids to be thriving, obviously. And then for myself personally, something I didn't realize until I was an adult, I sort of went through my childhood being almost celebrated for, like, you're the straight A student and you're in sports and you're in community service and you're doing, 500 things. But what I didn't realize was happening was I wasn't learning how to take care of myself. I wasn't learning any sort of self-care. I learned very quickly, though, later on in my life how,
Burnout.
well, that all led to burnout, essentially, because it was just like a go, go, go mentality. And it's not to say that we can't celebrate kids for their accomplishments. Of course, we need to do that, or adults as well.
Mm,
But when you're on a go, go, go path, you will crash and burn if
yeah,
you're not
it's not
taking a
healthy.
second for yourself. Yeah.
Right.
And that was just not a conversation that I remember having, frankly, in my childhood, anything about mental health or like take care of yourself or slow down sometimes. So that I think really came out of it. My mom, was amazing. She was doing the best she could, but she was working multiple
Right.
jobs to provide
Right.
for me and my brother. So I never really had that model of like,
Right.
here's how to do self-care.
Yeah, she was your
Here's how
role
to take care of
model, and she
yourself.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. She was your role model, and she was doing so much, and she was that
Yeah.
doer. And then you learned that. So
Yeah.
it just reminds me of when my son was around 12, I think, and his dad was putting him in all these sports, and he played travel hockey his entire life. But like, I just was so worried about my son's well-being because he was this straight A student and he was doing this and this and this. And it's like, when do you breathe?
Yep.
I didn't. And then it also reminds me of this other woman who was on my show, and she decided with her family that like they say no to anything on, was it Saturday or Sunday? I feel like it was Sunday. Like, just,
Interesting.
it doesn't matter if it's a birthday party. She's like, we're just nothing on Sunday. Like, that is our day to rest. And I love,
Hmm.
and it was so powerful because she's like, there's always going to be another this, that, and the other. And it was just so powerful. It's just a boundary to protect you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so
Absolutely.
So interesting. But the homeschooling, I mean, I'm a mentor with big brothers and big sisters. And so I go
Great
into,
organization.
yeah, so I go into the elementary school once, well, I was doing it once a week and then I was a little lost, but and seeing this 8-year-old and yeah, it's really, I totally can have compassion for so much of what you do. And just, what you said about support. Like now they have dogs in the school, which they didn't have when I was growing up. And I think that's
Yep.
great, right? A support
Hmm.
animal, right?
Yeah.
And you've written, oh my gosh, you wrote this ADHD book. You wrote a short guide for today's busy mom. You wrote the ADHD Explained, and you wrote Emotionally Healthy Children, the practical guide to raising emotionally healthy children. What so inspired you to do that? Were you were helping a lot of families, you said, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So in the beginning of my practice, a lot of the work that I did was definitely with families. Um, Definitely, I was seeing a lot of kids who had ADHD. I was getting a lot of similar questions. So, which prompted me, of course, I was like, well, let me write this book about it to try to do my best to share all of the questions and answers, of course, that I had in that particular field. But also, what I was seeing was with the parents I was working with, they were also stressed out as well because it can be challenging sometimes if you have a child with ADHD or whatever physical or emotional health issue, it can be a challenge for the parent as well.
It's a
Right. So,
challenge.
this next book is almost like, yeah, how do you deal with the burnout of being a parent or being a corporate
Yeah.
executive or running a business or whatever it is you're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a challenge raising children today, no matter what their
Exactly.
diagnosis is. But, and I also feel that
Yes.
a lot of us as adults are also ADHD. And I feel that it's kind of misdiagnosed multiple times because like little boys, like they need sports. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like we can
Yeah.
talk about this forever, but I'm a big child advocate. So my thing is when I hear a boy is diagnosed with that, like I always think like, but are they playing sports? Are they using their energy? I mean, there's definitely a difference between a boy and a girl. The girl plays in colors and plays with their dolls, and the boy needs, I'm just saying, that's my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of kids, yeah, a lot of kids are definitely, which is actually what my book, one of the things that that book was particularly about is a lot of kids are definitely overdiagnosed. Well, in my evaluations, I've seen some kids absolutely didn't even have ADHD. They had something else. But some kids did have ADHD and it wasn't addressed. So it really takes a full comprehensive evaluation because unfortunately, because attention issues looks like 40 other things, the go-to sometimes is like, oh, this child has ADHD. And it's like, well, no, actually they're dealing with some type of trauma, they're dealing with a move, a loss, they have a physical health issue, learning issue, or something else that looks like that, but it's not. Or yes, they really do, but they have another issue too that's not even addressed. So I could
Mm. I
talk for
love
three
that.
hours on that.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that you're aware and that you were helping
Yeah.
so many families and children. That is so amazing. Yeah, I know this trauma thing is so big and um, that we all have some form of it, like small t, big T trauma. Like you could be bullied on the playground. That's trauma, it's all different. So yeah, I love that you wrote that book to help people. So yeah, it takes a village. That's what I wanted to say when you were talking is
Yeah.
it takes a village to raise kids.
Hmm.
It really,
Yeah.
really does. And, I used to just pray because my son grew up in two separate homes, two separate loving homes, but we did not get along. And I would pray as long as he turns out happy, healthy, and independent, I'm good. Like nothing matters on
Yeah.
the planet except him being happy, healthy, independent. So even though I wasn't who I am today, this evolved, smarter, more compassionate, all the things, growth, the person I am today, I still always had deep love for my son. So I knew when we were fighting or we weren't getting along, he's the one suffering in the middle. So
Hmm.
I would always surrender. Like you win, because my son's the one in the middle. Like, no, that's it. So at least I had that sense, that intelligence. Um,
Yeah.
and he turned out wonderful and he has a great relationship with both of us, thank God. Um, but so tell us about your new book on mindset.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited about this one. So really, I wrote it because after the pandemic, after COVID-19 pandemic, and all the stress that it brought, and the turmoil, and all of those sorts of things, when I was thinking about my next book, I'm like, okay, what is it? Here I am 15 years now into mental health. And it's like, what is it? If I could really boil it down, like, how can people be helped? Like, what is it that they need to do for themselves to really think about thriving and changing their lives? And what I really think it all boils down to is your mindset and how you take care of yourself. So, the book is broken into a couple parts, and it's like, how do you practically start to grow physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally? There's all these areas of growth, but we need to take steps in order to change. Hopefully, we want to be a better version of who we are, and when we do that, then we become even more powerful for ourselves and for the people around us. So that was my motivation for writing this one. And I added in some personal stories in there as well, which I haven't done in previous books. I've done more teaching, but this one I was like, let me share a little bit about my journey as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's helpful to others. But I'm most excited for people that are going to pick it up and say, okay, let me start. Maybe they're at the start line, or maybe they need to do a reset and recharge. So let me start to apply these strategies so I can work on being healthier, happier, and more productive in my life.
Yeah, because health is wealth and mental health is
Yes,
tech. And mindset is everything because you can,
it is
I
everything.
was just listening to a book and I got one sentence he said literally like was so powerful and it helped me reframe something in my
Hmm.
personal business life. And I was like, it's so interesting. It's all how we look at perception, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of us, including myself, were raised in victim mindset or lack mindset or
Yep.
scarcity mindset, right? Or they can have it, but it's not for me. So this
Yep.
likely is teaching people that we can correct that thinking and attract the
Yes.
abundance and the joy and all the things, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm the person and stories teach. And you said you shared a couple personal stories in your new book.
Yeah.
Do you want to share like one or
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the hardest things that's happened to me in the last couple of years, that I shared a bit of in the book was actually, of course, in 2020, because why not? In the middle of a pandemic when the world is falling apart, I lost a very close mentor of mine, who was like a family member, frankly, and the person professionally who believed in me the most, like poured into me, always having conversations. You can do this, like that type of cheerleader who I think everyone needs, and super impactful in my life. And it was a very sudden loss, when I got the phone call that this person's no longer here on the planet, which of course I did not expect to get from his assistant. And yeah, it was a really difficult loss. And I share a little bit about that in the book because honestly, if I had not gone through the journey that I had been going through and trying to grow as a person and all the spiritual growth that I had obtained, if you will, up to that point, it would have been that much harder to go through. It was still difficult, and it is still difficult, I should say, to go through that grief journey. But building myself up, building up the mental armor to be able to handle something like that is what I hope for people to get from this book. Like, build up your mental armor. Like, we don't know what life throws at us. There's some great things and there's just some really hard things that we have to deal with, like hard losses, hard disappointments, the bumps in the road, all the things. Like, they're coming. Like, that's just what happens in life, but you can deal with it better when your mindset is in a healthier place.
yeah.
So I shared, again, like I mentioned, that actually the book is devoted to him.
Uh,
I devoted the book to him just because he was
um,
just
oh, that's
such a huge impact on my life. Yeah.
she was a gift.
Um,
That's beautiful.
yeah, he was definitely a gift.
Oh, you're so
So,
blessed. I love that. That's so beautiful. Yeah, honestly, mindset is everything. And I always teach we are not our minds or our bodies. We're spiritual, energetic beings having this human experience. So we
yep.
control here. We
Yes.
decide what we want to think about. we decide what we're going to focus on. And we decide, you choose your thoughts like you choose your clothing in the morning. And so, of course, this trauma that you just experienced, this sudden, finding out someone you love and care for that's, been a giant support in your life passes away suddenly, like that's trauma. So you had to
Yeah.
process that, but also you don't have to dwell there. I mean, everybody's different, and I'm not trying to take away from this situation. I'm just saying that, like, as I teach, like, we do control here, and we're supposed to be happy. We're here for joy. That's my belief.
Yes,
We're not here to
absolutely.
struggle or suffer. And it's a choice, is what I kind of think. We create our realities, and every day is a new day, and it's a gift, and we get to create what we want. And you created so much. So I wonder if, so you're half Black, is that, I'm just,
So my mom is Jamaican and my dad is Ethiopian.
oh, so you're not Black
That's
at
my,
all. Okay. I
so,
just
so yeah,
want,
I'm Black, but just different
oh,
ethnicities.
oh, okay. I only
Yeah.
ask because I want to know if you had any personal challenges or professional challenges with that being a minority, or,
Yes. That's a whole nother show. No, but
like,
I
how
mean,
did you overcome it is what I know that you have. You didn't even have to get
yeah,
into that. I already know that you have, because one, you're a
yeah,
woman and you're a minority. So what I want to let me reframe the question. You're beautiful and you're smart and you're all these things, but I want to know how you overcame when there were
yeah,
challenges that showed up.
yeah. And that is definitely a growth process. For sure. But it's working, which is not an easy thing, but it's working on being comfortable with who you are, knowing what you bring to the table, despite the fact that there's going to be racism and discrimination and prejudice and people having all of these beliefs about you, which are absolutely not true, just based on how you look. But understanding the power that you have and what you are really bringing to different conversations. I'm in a lot of rooms where no one looks like me, frankly, and that can be difficult sometimes. I've worked at length over the years of working through imposter syndrome and just all the things that you tell yourself you're not good enough, like all those sorts of things that you tell yourself. It really I wrote the book on mindset, but it really is a mindset journey to get to the point where you understand who you
Right.
are, because I think that we all have gifts that we bring to the table. It's just that we have to sometimes block out the noise around us and the negativity and the things that people say or believes, which are absolutely not true about you.
Right.
It's just not. So that is a journey, and it's not like, oh, I'm good. Like it's something that I continually work on, because I think it's a lifelong process for you to work on your mindset training. So I continue to do that, which helps me get through and again kind of block out some of the negativity and the things that people say, or the underestimating my abilities and all those sorts of things that just comes about with being a ethnic minority, frankly. So
Yeah.
that is what I do and continue to do
Yeah. No,
to
I just
get
wanted to
through.
ask because I know that,
Yeah.
just you're a powerful, you're, like I said, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're all the things, and you're successful. Like, you're creating this beautiful, you're speaking, you're writing books, you're doing all these things. And I just know the journey, I mean, the journey is just a journey, and it's not linear. And
No.
I experience, so what I use is some somatic healing besides the mindset. So I wonder
Yeah.
what tools, so we talked last time about self-care and, your personal practices and like what you do, and, meditation, prayer, and different things. So do you do any somatic healing work, like EFT or breath work or any of that?
I do. Yeah, I do believe strongly in breath work. I think it's one of the most underrated things that we can do for ourselves is doing the deep breathing. I, gosh, how long was it? It was a long, really long time, like over a decade. I was very heavy into yoga, up until the pandemic, actually. And then, of course, all the yoga studios shut down on us. And of course, it's reopened now. But nonetheless, like breath work has been something for a very long time that I really subscribe to. Like just working on taking deep breaths, working on, I say, take a minute. That's something I always share. a minute minimum out of your day. And just making sure, for me, it's about like just staying connected, just in my own beliefs, my faith beliefs, just staying connected spiritually. Like, how can I serve people? Like, what do I need to do right now to help someone today? What do I need to do in my business too? Like, this is, business and impact. What do I need to do to really take things to the next level and continue to help people? Along with, how can I continue to utilize my self-care? Because if I did not, with how crazy and busy and hectic my schedule is right now, I mean, I would definitely hit burnout. I would definitely not be able to sustain the level of hectic, busy, crazy schedule if I did not put the self-care measures into place. And this is something I've learned over time.
Yeah.
I was not like this a
Right.
while back, but I am today. So
Yeah, that's amazing. At what age did you start experiencing the burnout? Because you were saying that when you were young, you were this straight A student and you were doing
yeah,
things. At what age did you
I
start?
think I really think I hit burnout several times, definitely in my early 20s. When I was in graduate school, there was a lot of bumps in the road that came with that little journey. But also, when I got out of school, no one teaches you in school like how to start a business, how to start a practice. It's just like learn how to do therapy, learn how to do evaluations. And so I felt like I was pretty much thrown into the fire, like, go, like you've graduated, your license, go. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, how do I do this? So it was there was a point a couple years into starting the business where I was choosing to get no sleep. Like, because again, that's what I had learned, like, just be a machine, go hard, don't get any sleep. I wasn't eating well, like just not taking care of myself. And then my son was born. And then again, I was like, okay, spend every waking second, with this newborn. And again, no time
Super
for
mom.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, super mom. And then he was about probably 3 or 4. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work. I knew I had to really make some drastic changes in my life, because I'm like, I can't even show up as I want to show up for him as a mom and as a wife and business owner and all the things if I'm not taking care of myself. So that was a really huge shift. And honestly, I was totally exhausted, frankly.
Yeah.
So I made a lot of changes in my life. And that was in my 30s at that time. So it took a while to really fully understand and start to make a commitment to self-care.
Beautiful. Yeah. I had another guest, Michelle Rios, on the show, and she had the same exact story, really, where
Yeah.
in her 20s is when, and in grad school, like all just break down. Literally, she tells her story. And she also realizes that a lot of her external, like a lot of her worth, like she didn't really know who she was as a person. She was just checking all the boxes and doing all these things. And she didn't realize that her value isn't her degree or all these things. Like, you're just a worthy being for being alive. And,
Yep.
she got to, a lot of women do that, where we're doing for everybody else. We've been taught to do that. And then we don't even know who we are or what we like or what we're, it happens a lot. And then we're learning to prioritize ourselves, to take care of ourselves. And what do I want? Right. And boundaries, so huge. So what were some of the things that you did when you had this situation when your son was 3 or 4? Was it a son or daughter? I'm sorry.
My
Yeah, I
son. Yeah.
thought so. Yeah, your son, it
Mhm.
was 3 or 4, and you realized this is not going to work long term. Like, I'm not happy,
Yeah.
feeling good, I'm not healthy. What kinds of things did you do?
Yeah. So I started then, it's actually on Instagram in my stories. I have it as a highlight, but I really started being intentional with taking a minute, which is actually something I teach now to others, but like taking a minute minimum a day for myself. So I love nature. So for me, it was even like being out in nature. If it's walking through a park, I'm in Florida, so it's sometimes it might be the beaches, the ocean, or I travel a lot to different communities. So it might be the mountains or wherever I'm at, being intentional of like taking a minute for myself. Again, we talked about earlier, like the deep breathing, spending time in nature. I captured a lot of those like all over the globe. Like I said, on my Instagram stories and the highlights, called Take a Minute, hashtag Take a Minute. If anyone wants to check out the pictures,
Oh,
because I like photographing all those pretty places. But really, it started that way. Honestly, it started with me taking a minute for myself, and then now it's morphed into like, okay, being very intentional with my mornings, making sure I have for me my devotional, my gratitude practice, like all of that before I get to my cell phone, so I control how my day starts. Along with continuing to be as grateful as possible, even in the really hard, difficult times. So I shared a little bit earlier about my grief journey that started in 2020, but even in the really dark, hard times, I still would say, okay, throughout the pain, like you still can have pockets of joy, though. Like you're. I know it's hard. I totally get that, but you can still have moments of joy in the pain and in the grief and in the dark times too. So that has been like a huge major philosophy shift for me over time. And again, now today, I mean, very heavy on the self care, like a lot more than a minute now. But really just continuing that journey of like holistically, how can I be better physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally for all the roles that I play? So for myself and all the roles that I play.
So, so good. So true. So valuable. Yeah, I love nature too. And I just feel so
Yeah.
abundant and so peaceful when I'm in
Yes.
nature. And yeah, I'm in Florida also. So I love where I live and I can go and be in nature in 5 minutes. And I love that you have your morning practice, and I do too, and it's a non-negotiable. And
Yes.
I love that. And I also love, and sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it doesn't have all the things, but it's there, And I love
Hmm.
gratitude. I've been practicing gratitude for over 12 years. I had a health condition back in 11 and 12. I was misdiagnosed by 3 doctors, and it's a whole story that I won't get into, but I'll just say that gratitude was something I started then and I continue to today. And it will shift you. I mean, if you're having a bad day, guys, and you're just driving down the road, like this happened to me one day. I was like having a bad day and I'm like, okay, I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful, whatever I was saying, it could be, I'm thankful, that I'm in this great car, or I'm thankful that I have, like today with the dog in the morning, we're jogging a little bit and I'm like, we have legs. I was like, we both have
Mm.
legs. Let's be happy we have legs, right? I mean, there's people
Yeah.
who don't have legs. I mean, you can be thankful for so many different things. It could be a healthy meal, a great phone call, your family. There's so many blessings everywhere that the more what we focus on grows, right? So if you focus
Yeah.
on your blessings, you get more blessings. You focus on what you don't have lack, then you're creating more. And yeah, that's what I truly believe as well. So
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. So let's see. So you are traveling and speaking on stages. When did that start? Has that been going on for like 10 years?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's been about 10 years now.
you love it?
So I do. I love it. I love being in community with people. I love meeting people. I love hearing people's stories. We are what I've learned from meeting thousands and thousands of people, honestly, is that we are so much stronger than we know. Um, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories. So I've heard a lot of sad and traumatic and difficult stories, but I've also heard a lot of stories of resilience, like how people get through, which is remarkable. Like some stories I hear, I'm like, it's amazing that you're standing in front of me right now. Like it's just so much. Like we all have different lives, but there's just some things that are really difficult, really hard, but I've met people who have just risen above. And I'm like, that's amazing. And like you said too, they have a gratitude practice too, especially after getting through some of the things that they've gone through. They really have a gratitude practice. And like in a weird way, like it just changed their lives for the better. Like none of us want to go through hardships, of course. But when we do and we get on the other side and how amazing that can be, it's pretty remarkable. So
Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely love it. I love every single person I've met.
Yeah. So did you ever have any stage fright? How did that work? I just want to ask because I know a lot of people listening are coaches and I'm
Yeah,
oh,
I still remember my first speech to like hundreds of people. I think I was in like eighth grade or something like that, and I never had nerves of speaking on a stage. It's the weirdest thing because I think it's the number one fear still is speaking, and I've never had that fear. of speaking on the stage. Now, what I have had to work on though, as a speaker, for me, my anxiety is after the speech. So afterwards, which I've gotten way better at over time, but I used to be like, man, why didn't I say this? I should have said this. Why didn't I do this? I should have said this. Like all the what ifs and you should have, could have. And it was like really bad anxiety after I left the stage. But I've learned over time how to manage that and just have more grace with myself and remember the reason that I'm really there to impact other people's lives. I've also been in some really great speaker communities who are just outstanding, amazing people. And we've helped each other really, because some people do have those nerves on the stage and it's like, okay, here's what you can do for that. And then of course the anxiety afterwards for some of us. And it's like, okay, let's take a step back and understand, like you just got on a stage and help people in the audience and help impact these people's lives. So, so that helps with anxiety as well. But yeah, no stage fright for me. So
I feel like that is just that perfectionism and wanting to be. So I'm just talking like as to why you sort of were beating yourself up after. Even
oh
though
yeah,
you
for sure.
probably did an amazing job, but you're like, oh my gosh, I should have said this, I should have said that. And that's also why you wrote your books, because you're like getting it all out there, what you want to
Yes.
say. Here it is. I did
Yeah.
it. And then the whole world can have access to that information, which is so incredibly powerful. So what's in the future for you? What do you have coming? You have the book, and when does it come out?
Yeah. The book's out September 10th. So yeah, mindsettrainingbook.com is the pre-order page. So super excited about that. That is, it's been a wonderful process. It's been some ups and downs with that as well, of course, with any project, but excited about that. So that's definitely keeping me busy. And then really just working with different corporations right now. I'm working on a new burnout prevention program for some different organizations. So I'm excited about that. I'll have some online courses coming up. So definitely staying busy. As I mentioned, like one of the things that lights me up and excites me is always helping people, but also finding ways to help more and more people, because there's a lot of people who need a message and understanding around mental health and mental wellness. So that's what I'm up to in the world right now.
Yeah, that just made me think when you said that, like how many people are out there like drowning their sorrows in, or just not feeling their feelings and doing alcohol or just different things to cope instead of, healthier ways.
Yeah.
I had Kelly Siegel on my show. Has a huge following, and he speaks about not drinking alcohol and how during COVID, because a lot of positive things did come out of COVID. And this particular person, he started reading books. He started listening to podcasts. He quit drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
He started working on himself, and he transformed his whole life. And now he speaks on that. He's doing way better. Life's way better,
Yeah.
but he was healing. He was he had a lot of trauma in his childhood and he never dealt with any of it. And now he did. So, I just think that a lot of people out there are indulging or just like, this is like, the way, oh, go have a drink, whatever. And I just love that there's people like you and me that are showing them that you can feel good, you can choose your thoughts, you can heal. And, there's other ways. It's not just go drink, because that's just a Band-Aid. And,
Yeah.
so that's great. And then yeah, I mean, during all I was just going to say about COVID, like I agree that it was really, really hard for a lot of people to be isolated in their homes and different things, but like also there were good things that came from it where, people are working from home more now. They're able to be productive from home and save the commute. People were playing with their kids. Like you'd go to the
Yeah.
riding bikes, and being outside and not on the computer, right? And so there were a little bit of positives. Like I always say, there's some from every negative or perceived to be negative thing, a blessing came. Like my interview today that was out, I don't know if you listened, but Christina, she was in a head-on collision. She's now a breathwork expert, a coach, and all these things, and an author. But she was in a toxic relate marriage, and she was staying because she was this good Christian, didn't think
Hmm.
divorce was in her vocabulary. And she realized after this head-on collision that her life, it just it was a horrible experience and trauma, but she ended up changing her entire life. She got, out of the marriage, and she's doing all these wonderful things and has a podcast, Loving Your Life Again. So just saying
Yeah,
that every perceived to be negative thing, there's always sometimes an underlying blessing. And perhaps this
very true.
book came from your horrible loss, but the book is going to help some.
Yeah, it's true. I would totally agree with that. I would totally agree with that. It is. It's like you mentioned, like personally, I mean, professionally, of course, I'm in the field and I have that information, but personally, what I've been through as well. And just, I totally relate and have so much empathy for the person listening to this who is like, I am not taking care of myself. My self-care is not where it needs to be. I'm hitting burnout. Like, I get it. Like, I get it personally too, because I used to be in that place. And I want hopefully to save people from getting to the place where they're so stressed out, overwhelmed, like not functioning, and in a really dark place that could have been prevented, because a lot of times we can prevent those things when we set up ourselves for success and set up our mindset and our self-care so that we can thrive. So I am, yeah, I'm really hopeful for people to really get that out of the
Yeah.
book. And yeah.
Oh, I would just love for you to, because I say it all the time, but I want them to hear it from you, but like to tell them how self-care is not selfish, and how
Oh, yes.
that is such a program that so many people have, that I want you to just explain how self-care is not selfish and how we cannot serve anybody with an empty cup, but just hear your words on that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. A lot of that has to be unlearned. So many of us were programmed, maybe from childhood or teen years or whatever years, that like don't take any time for yourself. Everything else has to come before the work and the family and the this and that, or whatever it is, whoever it is that you have comes before you. But the problem with that is then you don't get to sustain your own well-being. When you crash and burn, you can't help anyone in that space. Now people have to come and help you, right? And for all the people around you. And that's what people want. Like, they want to see you happy and healthy. Most people happy and healthy and thriving. Like, they want that for you too. And you deserve that. And sometimes I talk a little bit about it in the book, but sometimes it is a question of self-love or worthiness and those sorts of things, which is a whole nother journey that you can sometimes take yourself, or sometimes you do need the help of a mental health professional. But nonetheless, I want to also remind people that you are absolutely worthy and you deserve to have the self-care that you need to thrive in your life.
Mhm. Absolutely. I love that. So true. I love this one author, Rachel Madorsky. She says, she's also a coach. She says that to give from when your cup is overflowing, that's what we should give from, is the overflowing. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and I love that so much. And it's true. It's always there's a ripple effect. So if you're depleted, you can help no one. But when you're happy, when mom's happy and mom feels good and she had her massage and she had her, she's rested, she's going to be happier for the kid, and she's going to be a better wife. And
Exactly.
she's going to be, the better everything. So yeah, that's so huge, so important. I love that message. Is there anything else you want to share? I loved talking with you and getting to know you, and
Yeah.
I'm excited about your book and all the things. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you wanted to share about?
I would just say, I would just remind people to make yourself your number one priority. Again, it doesn't mean you're selfish, but it means that you are working on ways, even if there's baby steps you need to take right now, but you're working on ways to show up powerfully for yourself and for everyone around you. The other thing I want to remind people of is there absolutely is hope. I know that there's a lot of people going through a lot of things. You may be in a dark place right now, but it doesn't rain forever. There's a lot of hope out there. There's a lot of people who need you. So continue to work on your self-care, continue to work on growing. And thirdly, I will say that even during the dark times, you still deserve to have those moments of joy. So find them, even if they're little pockets, even little minutes of joy. Like, you deserve to have that joy in your life.
So true. So good. Yes. I mean, God wants his children happy. We're not supposed to
Yes.
be suffering, and we get to be happy every day if we choose, if we want to. It's like that saying, choose joy.
Yes.
Um, we can. We have more power than we give ourselves credit for. Yeah.
We really do. We really do.
So how can people find you, Dr. Hammond?
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is my website, drnekeshiahammond.com. So it's DRNEKESHIA Hammond.com.
Yes. And we'll put all your links in the show notes. It was such a pleasure talking with you again. And thank you so much for being here. Um,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It means so much to me that you are here listening. I know you have so many options of things to listen to, so it means so much to me that you are here. I hope you enjoyed it and found value. If you did, the best way to support the podcast is by sharing, subscribing, and leaving a review. I really want to help as many people as I can. If you know anyone who is looking for support, who is looking for a coach, you can find me at lindabrandcoach.com or www.lindabrandcoaching.com. I'm also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all the places. Have a beautiful rest of your day and live empowered. Take care.